Welcome everybody to Super Geek Squad episode 4. Glad you could join us today. And Colten, you survived the snowstorm.
Quotation marks. This snowstorm was hyped up for like 6 days. Like, unironically, as soon as I go to work last week, everybody's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to get a snowstorm towards the end of the week. It's supposed to be kind of bad. And I'm like, well, we'll see what happens. And then you get towards like Wednesday and Thursday, and they're like, "Oh my God, this snowstorm we're supposed to get over the weekend is going to be the worst thing North Dakota has ever seen. It's going to be. You might as well give up your kids. They're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to feed them." And everybody's just going crazy, and there's people I see people driving all over town. All the grocery stores seem crazy busy on Friday. And Friday rolls around, we got nothing.
Yeah.
Saturday rolls around, there ain't a damn thing.
Yeah.
Sunday rolls around, everybody get ready because it's hitting hard. Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
Monday morning, real early in the morning, we get very light flurries, and it's just really cold wind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we only ended up getting like 3 or 4 inches.
I don't even think it was that to be like. Probably that's what it was accumulated, but it didn't stay. It literally was all melted by the afternoon.
Yeah. Because everybody was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get 10 inches."
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not that bad. You remember the winter of '97 where the snow was up to the top of people's houses? Come on now.
And yeah, it was crazy. I had to go for work. We do Meals on Wheels,
right?
And there was a bunch of people that we have that are like 90 years old that deliver.
Oh wow!
And so they stayed. We told them to stay home,
right?
Because the weather.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, we'll send the youngest guy to go do it. We'll send Colten in to go do it." And it was nothing. I got around perfectly fine.
Really?
I didn't have any issues. And I mean, again, don't get me wrong. Not saying that they should have came in because they're volunteers first off. So,
right.
You know, if they don't show up, it's not the end of the world. But the only thing that it was kind of slippery on sidewalks.
Yeah.
And so every single house I did almost slip and fall. I looked like a lunatic out there waving my arms around. But the amount that people thought it was going to be, and it's the end of March, so it's awful that we're even getting snow and still talking about it. But it was, I actually thought they got me to think that holy shit, this is actually going to be really bad. And
yeah.
It was nothing.
Yeah, when I seen it, I was like, the worst thing about it's gonna be the wind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 40-mile-an-hour wind. It was like, oh god, it's gonna be like a blizzard. But most of the blowing stuff's gonna be stuff that's already on the ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was thank God because I about had it. Like we're supposed to get flurries, I think, again next weekend, just a little bit. But
spring has sprung like a week ago. I don't know about that.
Yeah, like
spring's fighting a losing battle out there.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what I ever did to piss off Mother Nature, but enough is enough.
Yeah.
Like, even in the summertime when we go fishing, it's always windy.
Yep.
It's always windy.
Mm-hmm.
How they call Chicago the Windy City, I think no way.
I don't know.
Come to North Dakota and try to go fishing. You have to learn to fish in the wind.
Yep.
Definitely. I mean,
you have to learn to do everything in the wind.
Yeah. It's either really hot and windy or it's
really cold and windy.
Yeah. Either way, you gotta learn to fly.
Yeah.
So, one thing I wanted to touch on today was the issue with people having to sell their collections. Mm-hmm. You know, I watched a video on Facebook, and forgive me if I get the name wrong. It's Austin St. John, who was a Red Ranger, Power Ranger.
It might be.
Let me check that out. I just want to get this right because I don't want to screw it up. Let's see. Yeah, I believe it was Austin St. John. That's why we love Google.
I had a lady at work tell me that we have to stop using the internet because China is controlling TikTok and they're sending radio waves and you can't feel your legs anymore because of it.
Oh, Jesus.
So, just so everybody knows, the government's trying to ban TikTok, and it's for a good reason, because if you want to use your legs, you should side with them.
Oh, my God.
PSA.
Yeah. So, apologize for that. I am a big Power Rangers fan, and I knew his name, I just couldn't remember it right off the top of my head. It is Austin St. John, so he was the original Red Ranger for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And then he did a couple other series of Rangers after that. But I saw a video. Somebody had mailed him a letter apologizing to him that he had to sell his collection. Like this guy's family forced him to sell his collection because they thought it was stupid. They said it's a waste of time. And the guy was writing to him and telling him, and the reason why he was apologizing to him, he's like, I went to some events, I met you in person, I had you sign some of my things, and then I got forced to sell them. And Austin St. John's like, well, I appreciate you. You don't have to apologize to me. Yeah, I understand the situation and everything. That's unfortunate, but no hard feelings. Like I understand, you know. And I was like, and I was sitting there thinking like, that is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing if you gotta sell part of your collection, your whole collection, because maybe you had something happen in your life where you just need the money and you have no other choice, or you know, you had to pay for some car repairs or some kind of crisis that came up where you had to sell. That I understand. I've had to sell some of my stuff. I mean, I had a huge Ninja Turtle collection. I had to sell it. I had to make it like $2,000, but I had to fix my pickup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I'm slowly getting that back. But the thing that makes me upset the most is why is it okay for someone to go out and collect, like, say you like collecting dolphins or unicorns or dragons? It's okay to do that. But when somebody wants to go buy an action figure or a collectible from a movie or a comic book, it's dumb, it's stupid because it's child stuff. Like, I just don't understand it.
I think a lot of it is throughout, and this is not supposed to get into politics at all.
Well,
this is just going to be my example. Throughout everything, it's always a very, very slow climb. When you got the whole thing where we were like, oh, you know what? Just because you're a woman, maybe you should have the same rights as men. You know,
right?
Even now we still deal with it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it's not as bad as it was, but it's still there, and it's taken how many years for this now? Yeah. When we decided it was like, oh, it doesn't really matter the color of your skin. You're still a person. You know,
right.
We still deal with that, and it took so long. And it's the same stigma. You know, obviously, not as important as those, but it's the same stigma of, you know, being a nerd. And you know, for the longest time, nerds were always depicted as, I want to be your friend, and push up their glasses, you know, being real weird and creepy and stuff like that. And you're always hiding in the basement or whatever. You're scared to talk to people, and anytime you do, you're like drooling on yourself because of how weird you are.
Right.
And so, you know, even though that's not the case, I don't know if that ever really was the case.
I don't think so.
Regardless, even though that's not the case, that's what a lot of people who aren't interested in those things.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a car guy and you buy all these cars and stuff like that, I think that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'm not in that, you know, collection, right? Now I'm not gonna go ahead and call you a weirdo or something. I think it's kind of dumb because how much more expensive it is than other hobbies. But if that's what you want to do, that's your money. As long as you're not harming anybody, what's the problem, you know?
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, you know, a lot of people, they work their butts off all year long. Sometimes to save up for one figure that's like $1,000.
Yep.
Like, it's like if they're working their butts off, and obviously first priority, you know, with anybody that works, you know, you obviously got to pay your bills and your priorities first before you splurge, obviously. But it's like, you know, you earn that money. You should be able to do what you want with it. And, you know, it's like, I get, like, if some of my family come up and said, oh, that was stupid, why did you buy that? Such a waste of money. And then I would probably go like, well, you see that DVD player you just bought? Yeah, well, that's stupid, that's a waste of money, why don't you just stream?
Yep.
You know, like, they don't understand it, so it's okay for you to buy the things you like, but just because you don't like something else, it's dumb, and it's just dumb to waste your money.
You know, I've got my group of friends that I, you know, play games with and talk to and that stuff. All of us have different hobbies, you know. There's a couple of them that are, they're also, I mean, all of us are nerds. And one of them, he likes to collect, not comic books, but he likes to collect, like, novels of, like, games and stuff like that. Like, a really big one is Halo. I don't do that. I don't ridicule him at all. I had a couple friends that are, you know, avid gun collectors. While I ridicule them about being safe and that stuff with it or whatever, because you know, they'll be sitting there at their desk and that stuff, and we'll be talking, and all of a sudden you'll hear in the microphone he'll like click like a gun or something like that or whatever, and I'll tell him, I'll be like, you better not be a fucking idiot right now and have that loaded or anything. Oh no, I don't. Okay, because I'm gonna be pissed off if you do. And you know, so there's things like that. And I collect, you know, little tabletop action figures that, you know, to play stuff like Warhammer or D&D and stuff like that. And nobody ridicules me for that. Yeah, we'll make jokes. You know, I just, a couple weeks ago, there was a pre-order thing for this, like, massive set that I've been waiting for like 2 years. It finally came out. I can't believe I got one because they sold so fast. But it was like $200 in total and that stuff. people are gonna be like, bro, you wasted $200. Like even my buddies are like, you
Yeah.
spent $200 on that fucking thing, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I did, and they're like, well, that's your money, you know, like
Yeah.
they're not gonna understand it because they're not in the same boat of it, but they at the very least understand like he worked for his money. This
Right.
is something that he's excited about. This is something he likes.
Right.
Let him buy it.
Right, exactly. And that's, I look at it like, okay, if you have kids like I do, okay, my kids are getting a little bit older now, but you know what? There's still times I still sit down and me and my son will grab his wrestling action figures and we'll make matches and we'll do cool things and we'll play with them. And it's just that, it's nostalgia, it's that fun, that moment takes you back to when you were a kid, and it's a good memory. It's a good feeling to have, to know that something that gave you joy when you were younger is giving your kids joy, and you're still enjoying it, doing it with them. Like I don't play with a lot of my action figures, but you know what? The fact that like when a buddy comes over and oh man, that's some cool stuff. Like, yeah, you see that? Yeah, I remember when that movie came out on that. I used to play with that when I was younger, and I just got another one. Like it's so crazy. It's like I think people forget, like people are so strict. Like, oh, you're this age, you got to grow up. You got to be an adult now. You can't play with toys.
A lot of it too comes down to that there's a lot of people out there who, and this is not supposed to like take a shot at anybody. This is just my honest observation. There's a lot of people that don't have joy in their life.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that they wake up in the morning, they get ready to go to work, they hate it the whole time they're there. They come home, they sit on the couch and think about how much they hate their job, or hate, what, maybe it's not their job, maybe it's something that, maybe they hate their, God forbid, maybe they hate their partner, or maybe they, they hate their parent, or their neighbor, or whatever it might be, maybe they hate a specific situation that's happening. They just sit there with all this hate in them, and then they go to bed and they repeat. And then when they see people like, it is childish stuff, right? Like, oh, I'm sitting here playing with my action figures and that stuff. I get that, it is a little bit childish, but you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself.
Right.
And it's not even just with action figures. If you notice, people have fun, and there's always people around that are angry that those people are having fun.
Yeah.
It's just always something that's going on. Shit, you go on that stuff or whatever, you go tell everybody that you know that you went out to the lake and you went fishing. Why do you go fishing? It's so boring. Like, I just don't understand. You tell them you go camping. Oh, well, you know that during camping, like, this could happen or whatever. You go kayaking. Why would you go kayak? What happens if your kayak tips over? Like, there's always going to be people that are going to look for something to try to take that fun out of it. Now, you can argue that some of those are for safety things or whatever. Like, oh, if you go kayaking by yourself, what happens if it tips over in the kayak? That's different, But there are people that will try to tear apart what you're doing for fun because they didn't get to experience some sort of fun in that scenario.
Right.
So now they're angry that somebody else is, because there's just so much jealousy and envy and all that stuff going on. Yeah,
and that, that's one thing I've noticed. Like, obviously nobody's perfect, and everybody has their good days and bad days. And a lot of people probably have a lot worse lives than we do. But how in the heck can you wake up every day pissed off and bitter? Like, how can you, I just don't understand how people can live their lives like that. Like, I understand, I've been through a lot of crap in my life, too. But, boy, I wake up every day, refresh, say, okay, it's a new day, let's make the best of it. Like, and I don't take it out on anybody else if something unfortunate happens. I just never can understand why people just gotta try to ruin someone else's day when they're not happy.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
The other day when I talked about, you remember how I mentioned that person that crossed that boundary and that stuff and found my mom's number and stuff like that?
Yeah, he's missing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He learned his lesson. No,
just kidding.
I confronted him about it, and he was pretty bent out of shape because he didn't realize that he was crossing that line. And he comes down and he sees me every single day and he hangs out, for a while and that stuff. And like I mentioned before, he doesn't have a son or anything like that. So, that is a little bit of that or whatever.
Right.
But I had to let him know about the boundary, and he was pretty upset. And not that I was being angry or anything like that.
Yeah.
But then that made me feel sad,
Yeah.
And, all those kind of emotions kind of go in the same, being angry or sad or depressed or jealous or whatever. All those go. I went home and I played sad music on my phone, and I had to go to sleep and take a nap because I was so goddamn drained. And now in situations where you're angry and that stuff, and you wake up and that you just go yelling at people. I've done that before.
Yeah.
There's only been like 3 times in my life where I've been like a yelling where I've like actually been angry at somebody.
Yeah.
And all of those times I went home and I listened to music and I went to sleep because I needed a nappy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're kind of like Xander on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm going to go home and listen to country music and lay in my bed.
No, God, no. Country music actually would make me angry. Then we'd be in this
Really?
whole... There's a few good country songs, and when I do my exercise, because it's a group of seniors, they love country music.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to listen to country every goddamn day.
Yeah. Well, let me verify.
It's old country. It's old country.
I was going to say... The older country, 80s to 90s, is way better than the stuff they play today.
But I just hate... Find me a country song that's an actual country song that's not a mix of a country song or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just... It's country. And it doesn't sing about your truck, your girl, your mom, your car, beer, being down by the river, or those few things. That's pretty... Or tractors also. Let me not forget about tractors.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost every country song. And I get it. A lot of other genres, sing about specific things. But I also don't like rap, because rap sings about a very, very specific one. Yeah. Now when there's like parody songs and that stuff or whatever, or, an artist is branching out to something random, Weird Al, for example, his stuff is hilarious. Any of those... A lot of the songs that he does, I don't like the originals very much, but I love his.
Yeah.
And, that's just... Because they're changing what the everybody's going down the straight path, and these people are, they're taking a right turn.
Right.
And I'll listen to some country, and believe it or not, I think the country songs that I like the most are probably like the most stereotypical country songs. If you throw International Harvester on, I'm gonna start singing along, or Chicken Stir Fry or something like that. I'm gonna start going, and they're talking about cold beers and that stuff, like I said, which is one of the list.
Yeah.
But I can't sit down and listen to country because every song, and it's got to be older country too, because the new stuff it's terrible.
Yeah.
But the old country, a lot of it's all got the same beat to it, and the instruments sound the same. So after a while, I feel a little bit schizo because I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I'm just listening to the same thing over and over again.
Well, that's where me and you are different, sir. I like country music. I like 80s rock though. 80s rock.
Yeah, I'm 80s rock, 90s rock, and then once you get into the 2000s and that, and it's considered alternative rock. Yeah. Or I call it dad rock.
What?
It's called dad rock, like
why?
Nickelback and Creed and stuff like that.
Why do you call it dad rock?
Because for whatever reason, if you find a divorced dad and he's outside jamming to music by himself, it's going to be Nickelback or Creed.
Gee, what a coincidence. When I went through my divorce...
You were listening to With Arms Wide Open.
Yeah, and then I was listening to 80s rock, just like, yep.
Yep, it's called Divorced Dad Rock, I know.
Yep, partying it up. No, but, it just... Yeah, I just don't understand this world is just terrible. It's like, if people just spent more time doing what they enjoy and not caring what other people think or said, it'd be way better. I get it, okay? Like, I've seen 40-Year-Old Virgin, okay? I've seen it where the dude...
It's a wild turn.
Yeah, there's a point to this. The dude in the movie, I know it's a movie, he has all these collectible action figures. Mm-hmm. Still in the original box from when he was a kid. Ends up getting, close to, $100,000, $200,000, selling it all to start his own business. Mm-hmm. I get that. Because the one thing that people don't understand about action figures and collectibles, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, if you have to get rid of it for a legitimate reason, not just because some idiot or your nagging wife or girlfriend or husband or whoever the heck it is thinks it's dumb, they can just go frickin' sit in the corner and think about what they're saying because they're just idiots. Okay.
This could be projection, guys. We'll give it a couple minutes.
Yeah. If you have to sell it, you have a good chance of finding it again. Mm-hmm. And you might have to pay a little more, but you probably can find it again. Okay? I mean, like my Turbo Man. Okay? A lot of people think the Turbo Man movie was stupid. It was actually called Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay? It's a Christmas movie. And being a kid that didn't grow up with a lot, and my mom did what she could to make ends meet, and we were one of the families, didn't have a lot of money, and so when Christmas came around, you just got a few things, whatever. And that movie came out, I thought it was the coolest movie ever. Turbo Man was the shit. I'm sorry. I thought he was.
Yeah.
And I had him, and I played with him, oh my god, and then he ended up, one of his legs ended up breaking, whatever, and I had to throw it away, whatever. And a couple years ago, Funko decides to remake the real-size Turbo Man. And my mom and I were walking through Walmart, and it just happened to be my birthday, and I don't care if anybody thinks this is dumb, okay, shut up. But sitting there, and she goes, well, I don't know what to get you for your birthday. I said, well, you don't have to really give me anything. And she goes, no, I want to get you something. So walk around Walmart, see if there's something you want, like a movie or something. I was like, okay. So I'm walking around, and I just happened to walk through the toy aisle, because I go to the action figure aisle all the time. And I walked, and I turned, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like 10 years old again. Like, Mom! I was like, I want that. And she goes, are you serious? I said, yeah. I was like, it's only $30. She's like, are you serious? She's like, yeah. Are you actually going to do anything with it? I was like, nope. It's going to sit on the stand, and I'm just going to look at it. She goes, okay, if that's what you want. I think it's ridiculous, but whatever. So, a $30 toy made me happy at probably age 32. Because it took me back to that time. That's the only toy I had to play with when I was younger, because we didn't have a lot of money. So, for those of you that sit there and think that Star Wars and collecting all the superhero stuff is stupid, you can shove it.
Yeah, unless you hate Star Trek.
Yeah, oh god, here we go again about the Star Trek.
Then I stand with you.
Yeah. Jesus, boy, I hope we never get a Star Trek guest.
I'm gonna bring it up. I think it's my thing now. I have to bring it up every episode. I'm gonna say how I hate Star Trek.
Yeah, and next thing you know, freaking Mark Hamill's gonna be like just going at you. And be like, oh, yeah, I agree. And then we're going to have Spock come in. And then
I'm going to kick his ass.
Yeah. No,
that's a joke. If anybody is a fan of Spock, I would probably lose in a physical confrontation. But it's dumb.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's just, people just need to just back off. Like I said, I understand somebody's spending money stupid and they're not paying their bills and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, or you're not taking care of your priorities. I get it, but everybody just needs to stop thinking they got to voice a damn opinion about everything in everybody's life, and just let people be who they are, and just let them be. They're not hurting anything, doing anything wrong. Back the heck off,
The one thing, if you are a male, you'll agree with this. The one thing we are hurting is chances of winning.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of girls, or a lot of women out there that collect too. I mean, I go on the Whatnot app, and there's girls even selling action figures on there. And I'm impressed. I'm like, how the heck? Whoa, okay. I don't, because you don't see a lot of. I've never met a lot of women that collect that stuff. So it was just like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is interesting, whatever. So I mean, it's. Yeah, if you're gonna collect. Don't let anything bother you. Especially when you spend that money and put that time in to go to an event and meet somebody that was like a really big part of your childhood. Like, you had a crappy day at school, but you could come home and you could watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles or Star Wars or whatever, and it took all that away, and you were just boom, you were happy for an hour. Like, that's what people got to focus on. People have to focus on just do what you want, be happy, and go with it.
My movie was Braveheart.
Why? Because the guy got an arrow shot in his butt?
No, because whatever reason, my grandfather was obsessed with this. So I'd come home. I'd be kindergarten. I'd come home and that stuff. I was like, Grandpa, let's watch a movie where they stab each other.
Oh my god!
And he's like, let's watch it.
And that is why Colten lived in the principal's office.
No, I was never violent or anything.
That we know of. Yeah. Some reason
nobody's around to tell.
Some reason the teacher just one day just never came back.
But yeah, that was mine. It was Lord of the Rings, Braveheart, and Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
There was a TV show. I can't even remember. I think it was an animated TV show. but it would be every weekend. It would play in the morning, and I was always over at my grandfather's house, so he'd turn on Sherlock Holmes. He'd make me bacon, egg, and toast, and I would sit there and watch that for like, because I don't know why they aired so many episodes like one after another, but it would be like 2 hours of episodes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What the heck?
Yeah,
I knew they made movies. I didn't know they made a TV show.
I'm pretty sure. Like I said, it's been so long. It had to have been animated in some sort, not like like super cartoony or whatever, but like it wasn't live action or anything like that.
Yeah, I think when I was in school, I would come home, and it was either Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, and then this wasn't on very long. I think they only did like a few episodes, but it was called Beetleborgs.
I don't even know what that is.
Of course, you don't know what it is, but it's basically kind of like it's kind of like Power Rangers, but it's like their suits are kind of made up of like armor of an insect, but they're in there. They would fight and stuff. And why it was cool was it was 3 teenage kids, like probably I don't know 8th, 9th graders.
Okay.
Like for superheroes. Well, what kid wouldn't love seeing that?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't last very long, but I thought it was still cool. They actually made action figures for the show too. And then on the weekends, of course, the buddy of mine at the time, on the weekends they'd always have Three Stooges marathons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like we would be like glued to the TV, So
Three Stooges was another good one.
Yeah. It was. God, I hate getting old. Life was so much simpler back then. You didn't have no worries. You could just play with your toys, play with your friends, and just enjoy everything.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, you probably still do that. I come home.
I pay my bills, and then I don't care about anything
Yeah.
else.
You're like, I'm broke. I'm just going to watch Netflix.
No, my bills and that stuff are pretty cheap, so that's usually what I do is I pay twice a month. I pay all my bills. First check goes for like anything extra that if like I need, like something that randomly comes up, and then if that's not it, it goes to saving. And then the second check, that goes for wants. So where I buy more collectibles or something, and then the rest of it goes into savings. So
yeah, that's usually how I am. Like my weakness is anytime I go to Walmart, I'm sorry, I have one path. I come in the door, clearance aisle, circle around to the action figures, then I circle around to electronics where they have all the pop culture figures and stuff. And that's usually always a no-no because I end up walking out and spending $50.
Yeah, it's I haven't up at Walmart. I haven't like really bought, like obviously I go there for groceries here and there, but for a lot of like collectible stuff and that, I haven't bought anything from there for a while because it's getting spendy now. Yeah.
Well, the last time I was there, okay, you got to understand this. Jason David Frank died, the Green Ranger.
Yep.
Okay. I walked through Walmart. I have never, ever, ever seen a Green Ranger action figure there. Ever. I've seen a White Ranger once and I bought it. But I walk through and I see the Ultimates Green Ranger action figure with 3 different shields, like 6 different hands, 2 arms, legs. I mean, there's everything in there. And it was like $50. And I was like, oh man. And there was only one. And I was like, there is no way. I can't afford it right now, but I do have the money. Like, I'm going to do it. I don't care. I will have to sacrifice because I am not walking away without it because I've never seen it.
Yeah.
It's, like they always say, if you've never seen it there before, then you better just do it if you can afford it or have the extra money because it's probably not going to be there again. So I got it. I'm like, oh man, that was a hard hit. So I was just curious. I got home and I took a picture of it, and boom, it pops up online. They're selling anywhere from $200 to $300, and I got it for $50 at Walmart. Makes sense? Do you guys that sit there want to judge people about buying action figures and having all these stupid toys? I basically just tripled my money if I do need to sell it one day.
See, that's what you're doing though. Is you're giving them ammunition Because you're saying, you're like, see, I made my money back. Then they're going to hit you with, okay, go sell it.
Oh, and I could real easily.
Yeah, but you won't.
No, but I won't.
Yeah. So that's where they get the ammunition and that stuff. Because you're like, I could sell all this for $1,000 right now. Do it. Why don't you mind your business?
Yeah. Get out of here. Nobody wants you here.
That's where the issue comes in. I know how that goes.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's not, you know, you meet people that go, oh, I would never buy that stuff. I'm not into that stuff. Say my girlfriend, for instance, okay? She goes, I'm not into that stuff. That's okay. And then I was showing her my Funkos and stuff, and she's like, oh, I want a Machine Gun Kelly Funko.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
Yeah, me, I was like, really?
What did you just say?
Yeah, and I was like, okay. And she's like, but I can't find one. I was like, no problem. Got on Whatnot, and then boom, right there, I bought one $15. She's like, oh my God. And she was so happy. She's like, see, you're going to get addicted to it.
And you're going to throw it away.
Yeah. and so she got it in the mail, and she's real happy. And then she's like, yeah, I'm not going to get any more. Well, we're both Michael Myers fans. Mm-hmm. Okay, I like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, all that. We're walking through Walmart. Boom, there's a Michael Myers action figure. Guess who bought it? So I'm slowly getting her addicted. Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to happen.
It's a real problem, guys.
Yeah. We're probably going to have to start doing therapy. Who knows? That's the funnest part of this is going somewhere into a random store and going, oh my God, I've been looking for that. It's been like 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's just that feeling like, oh, I finally completed it. It's like with mine, I have Ninja Turtle, Power Ranger Funkos. Mm-hmm. And the thing that sucked about them is when they released the first two, which was Leonardo and Donatello, you had to wait for Funko to release the other two. Oh. And then they also made Shredder the Green Ranger. Oh, okay. So like Shredder, Leonardo, Donatello came out. But trying to buy them when they came out, good luck. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was outrageously expensive. Mm-hmm. To me, and that's where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be stupid. Mm-hmm. You know, like people were paying anywhere from like $70 and up just for one, and I was like, no. Well, a buddy of mine that sells them and stuff, he actually ended up getting a couple of them at a show for a pretty decent price, and I bought them from him. Okay, well, Raphael and Michelangelo hadn't been released yet. Well, okay, so I think I don't know how a few months went by, and they released, and he was looking for them. I was like, we could not find them at all. And I was like, man, I'm just like, I'm about ready to just give up on this. Like, where are these things, you know? And I was on Whatnot one night, and I was going through different shows, and I was like, I want to find these Power Ranger Funkos. Like, nobody can find them. And this one guy's like, yeah, I got them, but I don't know where they're at. I'm like, oh. So I went to another one, and the guy's like, yeah, I got them. Yeah, here. Well, they have this thing on there where they do sudden death bidding. Mm-hmm. So where, like, normal bidding, every time you bid, the time resets like 5 seconds. Yeah. Okay? Until somebody just quits bidding, and then whoever's the highest bidder wins. Well, with sudden death, you just bid and hope, God, you're the one that gets it, you know? Yeah. And he put them down, and I was like, just do buy it now. Just do buy it now. He's like, no, man, I'll just start them for $1. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, there's 100 people in this room. They're not stupid. Mm-hmm. And I ended up having to battle for these two. And I think I ended up, for both of them, with shipping, it was like $75. So it wasn't too terrible. Yeah. But I was just like, oh, that sucked. Mm-hmm. But I was relieved, like, oh, I finally completed it. Mm-hmm. So now for Funkos, like, I'm content right now. Like, like I got my Power Ranger set. I got my original set that came out, the comic book set. Mm-hmm. I am content. That's one thing with collecting. There might be a point where, okay, I'm content with this. Mm-hmm. Now we got to focus over here on this other stuff. Yeah. You know, and then you keep going, you know. So, I don't know. It's just hard for people to understand, I guess, the love of the game, I guess I call it, because it's just that joy you feel. I mean, even with D&D, I'm sure, you know.
I think most people understand it. It's just they're being ignorant about it, because they understand it because I don't know who doesn't have a hobby. Like, for people who don't have a hobby, their hobby is working. They just won't admit it, you know, because they become workaholics. Yeah. Everybody has that hobby and that thing that even if you might be frustrated with it, for a set amount of time or whatever,
Yeah.
if you go fishing, there's a lot of people when you're fishing, you snag your line and it breaks. There's some words that go out, So there's obviously all these different things that people are hobbies of or have hobbies of, and like even I say like, oh, I don't understand why you would pick cars, why it's so expensive because it's so expensive, but I understand the wanting to collect. I understand, or wanting to have that hobby or whatever. Maybe your hobby is not collecting. Maybe your hobby is doing something else, but it's all the same. It's just having a hobby.
Right.
Just because you don't collect doesn't mean that you don't have a hobby or anything like that. So
Right.
it's stuff that everybody understands. It doesn't match with yours, so they're like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know what? That was kind of heartbreaking seeing that on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing
that is pretty messed up.
It's like really.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy took the time to send a letter, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
He took the time to actually read it and put it out there, like kind of letting people know, like, come on, seriously, like.
Now here I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Do you think that it was something where, because people have done this before, without this intent, they will send something to like this person, like, oh, I had I was in the hospital, or my kid was in the hospital, blah blah blah. I had to sell. Like a lot of soccer players do it.
Yeah.
They'll send it to like, I had a signed jersey from you, I had to sell it, blah blah blah. And then they'll like make the trip to go to the hospital and visit them and get them like another signed jersey, get the kid also a signed jersey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate here, do you think that some people do that just like, oh, maybe if I send this, he'll read it and maybe they'll get me something out of it?
I mean, yeah, but obviously there's people out there that will use that trickery. Obviously, to try to give some sobbing story or. Now, if it's a legit story, I understand.
Yeah.
But, like, just making something up just to try to get something cool for free, yeah, obviously.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I do it part-time, but I paint collectibles, like D&D miniatures and stuff like that.
Right.
And, people will, come to me and that stuff through online. There's a couple different websites that I use. And they'll be like, hey, I want you to do this. Can I pay you to paint this? And right off the bat, like, now they might not have exactly what I have, but I have like pictures and that stuff. And I'm like, if you want something this size painted, this is how much it's going to be. If you want it painted to, the highest possible detail, here's what it's going to be instead.
Right.
If you want it painted really easy, like where it doesn't look like trash, but just something cheap and easy.
Right.
Here you go. And then if you want something this size, and here are the lists and stuff like that. And I'll have people that'll approach me, and they'll be like, hey, I want to do this. And I'll be like, okay, well, what do you all have? And they'll list it out, and I'll be like, okay, based on what I have here and that stuff, this is what it's going to cost. Well, I got a lot of bills that I have to pay, and I got medical things going on and that stuff. And they try to give you a sob story. And it's like, if money's so tight, why are you paying somebody else to paint your stuff?
Yeah.
Like, if money's so tight, then keep your money towards the necessities, right?
Yeah.
This is something extra, yes, maybe it's been a while, who knows, that since you got something like this, and I can understand that it sucks, but because it sucks for you, you want it to suck for somebody else, basically. You want me to do it for so much cheaper, where the cost of me shipping it, the cost of me buying the supplies, the time it takes me to do it, where I'd be basically losing money or just breaking even.
Yeah.
Like, I've got no problem, if I know somebody personally and they want something and they're like, hey man, can I, pay you this much and then pay you back more later, or can I just give you this? That's all I have right now. Again, depending on situations, they might vary, but I've encountered a lot because the internet, you don't know anybody, right? Like,
right.
It's hard to track somebody back or whatever, so you can just give them this lie, this sob story, and just try to take advantage of somebody's good nature. And I did that for a few of them, and I had to quit because I would see that. Like, oh, I painted this thing for this person or whatever and that stuff, and I painted them this deal.
Yeah.
And then, like, I see, like, later that they make a post about something on one of these forums. Like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to paint this too or whatever. I'm willing to pay this much or whatever. And it's like, you weren't willing to do that for me. Like, so that's why I play devil's advocate with it, because there are some people out there that do stuff like that.
Yeah, no, oh, definitely, yeah. You always get people like that always make up some weird story or whatever, And what sucks is, so many people use it.
Yeah.
To try to get things.
It's hard to tell when people are serious.
Actually being serious, because you want to be sincere to somebody that probably is dealing with a tough time, and you don't mind helping out or whatever, but it's just so hard.
Maybe the way I go about it is wrong now, But if somebody hits me with that, I'm just done with it. Like, I don't talk with them, I don't interact with them, and it might be harsh because, like, maybe the person is going through something. But if I went over to McDonald's right now and I was like, hey, look, it's rough out here, can I give you $6 for a meal instead of the $12 it's going to cost? They're going to kind of look at me and they're going to be like, you're willing to pay, but you only want to pay for some of it? Like,
yeah.
Obviously you have some sort of income or some sort of money and stuff like that. Maybe you should deal with it, in other manners. Like, businesses, like...
Well, you could probably buy a couple McChickens still.
Yeah, I'd probably get a couple things, but, like, it's that weird concept of it and that stuff that you're willing to pay, but you want to pay so that way you get a really, really good deal. You don't want to pay the person's putting their time and effort into it, they're buying their own supplies and that stuff, and you don't want to pay them what they're worth.
Right.
And if you want to pay for something really cheap, it's going to correlate. There's a graph that I have, and I use this for everything. And it is, I call it works for other things, but I call it the food graph.
Yeah.
And on the left side, you have the cost of the item. And along the bottom, how good it is.
Okay.
If it's a burger that costs $1, you're way down at the graph. It doesn't have to be that good of a burger. It doesn't matter. It costs $1. I'm just hungry. I want some food.
Right.
But now if that burger with nothing else, that burger jumps all the way up to $15, needs to go up the graph. That needs to be a pretty good burger.
Right.
If for some reason we jump up to like a $30 burger and nothing else, no side, no drink or something, there better be somebody feeding me the damn burger, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it better taste good too. Like,
yeah.
It goes with that, and it's with everything else or whatever. The amount of money that you're spending on it is the quality that you need to get from it.
Yeah.
If you want to get an action figure or a collectible or something paid, and you only want to pay $20 for it, now obviously if you're just talking about a tiny little one, whatever, but I'm talking about something like a nice centerpiece of something, and you only want to spend $20. Sure, you might be able to get somebody to do it that it looks okay.
Yeah.
But if you want that huge, 12, 18-inch centerpiece that you're putting on display, and you want everybody to look at it and be like, holy crap, that is good.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. And it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort because you want it to be the best that it possibly can be.
Yeah, it's not going to be
cheap. You have to pay for it. It's going to take that person, depending on what it is. I mean, it can take that person, anywhere from 20 to 40 hours. You're paying for a whole week's wage, and they're honestly probably only charging you a couple $100, and you're paying for a week's wage, and they're only charging that. So, like, a lot of people, especially what I've seen with, like, collectors and that stuff when it comes to painting, painters are very heavily underpaid. I don't know how anybody can do it as a job.
Right.
I don't. If you're painting houses, that's one thing, but if you're doing collectibles, I was able to do it for a little while, but it's not something that you can sustain unless you are somehow ungodly fast, but you can't control the paint, right? You can just control the brush, and the paint does what it wants, so you need to take time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's, and that's the thing with action figures too. Like, you have action figures, and then you have statues.
Mm-hmm.
Statues is like the top of the line.
Yep.
Like, you're gonna blow some good money on this. Okay, like there's one when the last Ronin came out, they made a statue with Michelangelo and then his three brothers as spirits behind him with their hands on, and it was huge. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. To get that whole sculpture, hand paint, like it was all done by hand and all that. $1,500. And it's heavy and it's big and I want it, but gosh almighty,
you could take out a loan.
Yeah.
And lie about it, say it's for like a car.
Yeah, and I probably would. Yeah. No, like there's a rumor right now that US Bank Stadium put a bid in to have WrestleMania next year in Minneapolis.
Oh.
Just saying, that might happen. Mm-hmm. I might go, hey, I need to borrow like $4,000. Why? I got to do some home repairs and we're going to WrestleMania. Like, I would finance that because it's probably a once in a lifetime opportunity, So, yeah, I'm just saying, you might be a redneck if you finance a trip with your bank. Yeah, though, last thing I'm going to say here before we end is just when you're talking to individuals, just take into consideration. You want to make an opinion and you want to say some of the hobbies they have or things they like and that they enjoy. Just take into consideration to just stop for a minute and say, how would I like someone commenting and, voicing an opinion on something that I like and being negative about it and wanting me to not do it anymore or just get away from it just because you don't want to deal with it. Take into consideration how they feel about it, and don't force people to do something that's going to make them more miserable than they already are when that's their only escape to be happy.
Yep.
So, thanks everybody for listening, and this is Ron and Colten with Super Geek Squad, and we'll see you next time.